It doesn't matter.
Can't see him.
But he's there.
I trust you.
I'm trying to find this.
What time is it?
Not yet. Not yet. Not yet. Not yet. I'll tell you. Shana Tova. Shana Tova.
Shana Tova.
Umanayim shevet achim shevet achim gam yachad, how good it is, how really, really, really good it is to be here together in our sanctuary to welcome the new year. We are thrilled to be here with Sela and leading our Vador service, a return to that service. Do me a favor, it is so good to be here. Those of you joining us from live stream from wherever, we're glad everyone's here with us. If you're in the room, take a moment, turn to the people around you and wish them Shana Tova. We can do that. Shana Tova.
Shana Tova. Shana Tova, NSCI.
It is from my vantage to be up here and to see so many of you here just so good. So sometimes people are used to a story a little bit later on, but we're going to start with a story because I think it sets the tone for our service. So let me ask you a question, however old you are. Who's been asked ever, what do you want to be when you grow up, even if you're asked as a child? Anyone who was ever asked by someone, what do you want to be when you grow up? I bet everyone was, actually, but okay. Well, keep that question in mind, because you never know what you're going to be. So, this is a story about a king. And this king ruled his kingdom with wisdom and compassion. And near the end of his life, everyone wondered, who's going to be the next ruler? Would it be one of his children, an advisor, a general? So the king was very worried people were going to fight over who would be king after him. They didn't have a whole monarchic system like England does. So he wrote a letter to be opened on the day he died. The letter said who was going to be following him. So the day the king died, the kingdom was terribly sad. They mourned, and then they turned to open his letter. With great ceremony, the prime minister opened the letter, read the instructions, and who did the king choose? The king chose the jester. Everyone know what a jester is? A jester is a very funny person, not necessarily what people think of as a king. So it wasn't his child, advisor, or general, it was the jester. The jester would be crowned king. Everyone thought that was a joke. How could a fool, as they called the jester, be king? But these were the king's instructions. And so the jester was brought before the royal court. The cloak, the royal staff removed his jester costume. He had a very fancy coat. And they took off his jingly hat, and they put a crown on his head. They sat him on the royal throne, and it was a little awkward for him. He was used to dancing around and making people laugh. But people began to get used to it. And they found over time that the jester, as a new king, was brilliant. He was wise, compassionate, and even as insightful as the old king. He listened to everyone with care. His advisors, his generals, even what they called then the commoners, the people who didn't have power. He treated everyone with respect and kindness, and he used his powers to bring peace to the country. The jester was a superb king, and everyone came to love him. But there was this mystery, you know? Every so often he would disappear. He would go into a room in the palace, a very far away room that only he had the key to. He would lock the room. He would go there for a few hours, and then he would come back, and he would resume his duties as king. Most members of the royal court thought, oh, we must go to pray or meditate, maybe take a nap, read some scholarly things. They just thought, okay, that's a mystery. It's part of his life. But then one day an ambassador came from a faraway land. The ambassador spent many hours with the king. He grew to appreciate that this king was wise, kind. He thought it's so rare for a king to listen to everyone, not just the people who have power and influence. The king even asked for advice from everyone around him, not just his advisors. The king worked so hard for the good of his people. The ambassador one day noticed that the king went off to that room in the palace and thought, what do we make of that? He said, I wonder what's in that room that helps the king be such a good king. So one day when the king went, the ambassador secretly followed him. The king locked the door. The ambassador peeked in through the keyhole. He crouched down and peeked through, and he took in the king's great secret. In the privacy of that room, where no one else was watching, the king took off his royal robes. He put back on his jester's hat and coat, and he danced around and sang his jester songs, made jokes. And he stood before the great mirror and said to himself, never forget who you are. You may look and sound like a king, but you are a jester. You are a jester pretending to be king. Never forget who you are. Now the ambassador understood it all. He understood the source of the king's great wisdom. He understood why the king was so kind and great. He was humble. He didn't let his job get to his head, as they say. He didn't get full of himself or arrogant or haughty. He knew that the secret of the king's humility was that he knew who he was. He knew what was important to him. And so the ambassador came to love the king even more and promised he would keep his secret. For one day he said to the king, I know your secret, but I will never, ever tell it. He said, but there is one thing I've never been able to figure out, Your Majesty. Of all the people in the royal court, whom the old king could have chosen anyone to succeed him, why did he choose you? The jester. The king smiled. He turned to his friend and replied, and who do you think the king was before he became king? The jester knew who he really was and what was important to him, even though he got dressed up in new clothes, new uniform, as it were. We dress up, right? We're dressed up today. I'm certainly dressed up in a robe I don't wear more than a couple times a year. It's easy to get caught up in what we do, what our titles are, what our costumes are, roles are, our dresses. But we have to stop. Maybe we don't have to lock ourselves in a room, but to step back. Maybe it's to sit by the lake or sit on the couch or on the porch or talk to a good friend or a family member and say, what really matters? Who am I? What's important to me? That's what Rosh Hashanah, we can do that all year, but that's what Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur and these 10 days that begin today are about. So I invite you over these 10 days to think about, who are we? Who am I? What's important to me? Yeah, maybe what do I want to do when I grow up? But most important, what are the values? What are the things I want to do in our world? Who's important to me? How can I be like the jester who knew himself? So I invite you to keep the jester in mind as a role model for us all as we turn to prayer and we begin our service officially. We turn to page 19 if you're able to rise. Excuse me, not to, yes, to page 19. And if you're able to rise, please do. If we join together, Baruch Hu.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
We continue together at the bottom of page 20. Praised are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe. In your mercy you make light shine over the earth and all its inhabitants, and in your goodness you renew day by day the work of creation. How great are your works, O God! In wisdom you have made them all. The heavens declare your glory. The earth reveals your creative power. You form light and darkness, bring harmony into nature and peace to the human heart. Shine a new light over Zion. May we soon see its glow. Praised are you, Adonai, creator of light. We turn to page 22. Continue, page 22, chanting V'ahavta with Selah.
את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך וחיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושינתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ולכתך בדרך ושוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידך וחיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם אלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
The top of 23, we continue responsively. God, you brought our people out of Egypt. You gave us hope and freedom. As our ancestors yearned for freedom, so do we. What does it mean to be completely free? To break free from cruelty in our homes and schools. To break free from the slavery of selfishness.
Let us reach out with tzedakah.
To break free from thoughtless behavior.
Let us reach out with honor and respect.
Let us choose the path of mitzvot, the path of freedom, the path our ancestors traveled at the shores of the sea.
Israel, ופדי קדמך יהודה וישראל. גואלנו אדוני צבאות שמו קדוש ישראל.
Turn to page 24 and rise for Amidah.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Leah Ha'el HaGadol HaGibor VaHanorah El Elyon Shemo Be'ahava. Zochreinu le'chaim, le'chofetz b'chaim, le'choteinu b'sefer ha'chaim, le'malcha Elohim ha'im, le'choteinu b'sefer ha'chaim, le'malcha Elohim ha'im. Le'chozer Moshiach Gein, Baruch atah Adonai. Magin Avraham, Bezrat Sarah.
Eternal is your might, O God. You gave life to all. Great is your power to save. You sustain life with loving kindness. You give life to all with great compassion. Free the captive and keep faith with those who sleep in the dust. Who is like you, Master of awesome powers? Who is like you, Adonai, who ordains death and life and causes triumph to flourish? Who is like you, compassionate parent? Through your mercy, you remember all your creations for life. You are faithful to all life.
Blessed are you, Adonai, giver of life.
Turn to page 26, a very special prayer, part of our High Holy Day liturgy, Unatana Tokaf. And it reminds us that we can't predict and control everything in our lives, but we can control how we respond to things that are good and to things that are challenging. So we turn to page 26 and we continue responsively. On Rosh Hashanah, we reflect. On Yom Kippur, we consider who shall live for the sake of others, who shall leave a heritage of life, who shall burn with the fires of greed, who shall drown in the waters of despair, whose hunger shall be for good, whose shall thirst for justice and right,
Whose tongue shall cause pain and discord, whose words shall make for peace.
who shall be plagued by fear of the world, who shall strangle for lack of friends,
Who shall rest at the end of day, lie sleepless in the bed of pain.
who shall go forth in the quest for truth, who shall be locked in the prison of self,
Who shall be serene in every storm, troubled by passing breeze.
who shall be poor in the midst of possessions, who shall be rich, content with their lot. Repentance, prayer, and charity return us to our God. Forgiven the past, renewed for tomorrow, may we go forth to a year of great goodness.
We are gifts and we are blessings. We are history in song. We are hope and we are healing. We are learning to be strong.
We are words and we are stories. We are pictures of the past. We are carriers of wisdom, not the first and not the last. The door Vador Naki Golecha. The door Vador, we protect this chain from generation to generation. The door Vador, these lips will praise your name. Looking back on the journey that we carry in our heart, from the shadow of the mountain
page 27. Our God and God of ages past, sanctify us with your mitzvot, and let your Torah be our way of life. Sanctify us with your goodness, gladden us with your salvation. Purify our hearts to serve you in truth. Your word is true and enduring forever. Blessed are you, Adonai, who sanctifies Israel in the day of remembrance. Continue responsively on page 28. Delight, O our God, in your people Israel. See how our souls mirror your presence. Let our yearnings be as words of praise and our strivings as works of love. Shower us with compassion as we reach out to you. Ever returning God, keep watch over us and over Zion. We turn to Selah, the last 6 lines on page 29, actually the third word in from the 6th line up. And let us sing with Selah. Prayer of gratitude. Continue singing our prayer for peace, Sim Shalom, page 30. Join with Selah.
Shalom.
reflection. For some, that's easy. You can look at the words on the page. You can think about what you're thinking about. If you're not sure, I invite you to think, if I were in a conversation with God right now, or this could be, what would I think? What would I say? And what would I call God? We turn to page 31 and rise for Abel's return to Avinu Malkeinu. We pray responsively. Avinu Malkeinu Shema Kolenu.
Avinu Malkeinu, hear our voice.
Avinu Malkeinu Chatanu Lifanecha.
Avinu Malkeinu, stand before you.
Avinu Malkeinu Chamol Aleinu Bi'al Olaleinu V'Tapenu.
Avinu Malkeinu, have compassion on us and our children.
Avinu Malkeinu Kale Dever V'Ra'av V'Cherev Me'olenu.
Avinu Malkeinu, make an end to sickness, war, and famine.
Avinu Malkeinu Kale Kol Tsar Umastin Me'olenu.
Avinu Malkeinu, make an end to all oppression.
Avinu Malkeinu Kodvenu B'Sefer Chayim Tovim.
Avinu Malkeinu, inscribe us in the book of life and righteousness.
Avinu Malkeinu Kadesh Aleinu Shana Tova.
Avinu Malkeinu, bring us a good new year.
Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Banenu Banenu, Ki Emanu Masi, Tzedakah v'chesed,
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Echad Eloheinu Gadol Adonenu Kadosh Menorah Shemo Lecha Adonai Hagedol
That way, you're going to go up the center. Just keep moving and don't clobber anyone. Okay, keep-
והתפארת והנצח והכבוד כי כל בשמיים ובארץ כי כל בשמיים ובארץ לך אדוני הממלכה והמתנשא לכל ראש כי מציון
תצא תורה ודבר אדוני ירושלים כי מציון תצא תורה ודבר אדוני ירושלים כי מציון תצא תורה ודבר אדוני ירושלים כי מציון תצא תורה ודבר אדוני ירושלים
ברוך שנתן תורה לעמו ישראל. ברוך שנתן תורה לעמו ישראל. בקדושתו כמציון תצא תורה ודבר אדוני ירושלים. מציון
תצא תורה ודבר אדוני ירושלים
אדון עולם אשר מעלה בטרם כל יציר נברא לעת נעשה בקצו כל אזי מלך שמו נברא אזי מלך שמו נברא ואחרי תקלו הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא והוא היה והוא הווה והוא יהיה לתפארה והוא יהיה לתפארה והוא אחד ואין שני להשילו להכירה ולהשיב ולתכלית ולא עוז והנסרה ולא עוז והנסרה והוא ואין שני להשילו להכירה ולהשיב ישמחו השמיים, ישמחו השמיים, ישמחו השמיים, ודרכי הארץ. ישמחו השמיים, ישמחו השמיים, ישמחו השמיים, ודרכי הארץ. Yiramayan, Iramayam, Iramayam Umlo'o, Yismechu Hashamayim, Yismechu Hashamayim, Yismechu Hashamayim, V'tagelaretz, Yismechu Hashamayim, Yismechu Hashamayim, Yismechu Hashamayim, V'tagelaretz, Yiramayam, 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 Yismechu Hashamayim, Hashamayim, Yismechu Hashamayim, Hashamayim, Yismechu Hashamayim, V'tagelaretz.
Wow, that was awesome. We are in the sanctuary and we are bringing Torah out into the congregation. We are, just so you know, the booklet you received as you entered the sanctuary today has the list of honors, our musicians, our Torah readers, all sorts of helpful information. We are reading this morning, traditional words for Rosh Hashanah will be on page 33 in your prayer book. Our Torah readers are Tessa Covey and Eli Levin. And for the Aliyah, for the Torah blessing, we invite all of our, what we call our pandemic era B'nai Mitzvah. So if you were a bar or bat mitzvah from March 20th to June 22nd, come on up, because you guys are going to do the blessing together. We want to acknowledge that while you gained much, you also lost some within the era of the pandemic, and we want you up on the bima front and center to celebrate you and your accomplishments. From March 20th to June 22nd, whether you told us you were coming up or not, come on up. And you don't want me to call you by name, so come on up. We want you all up here. So our Torah reading in the book of Genesis is called the Akedah, the binding of Isaac. It's a challenging story to some. Abraham's faith is tested. He's told to sacrifice Isaac, which P.S. he doesn't. It's a statement of his faith that he listens to God. In our world today, we might well say, what are you asking me? Not sure what I feel about this, but it challenges us to think about what do we do for our Judaism? What is important to us? What do we believe in? And even to say, what do we struggle with, that we can challenge our beliefs and think some more about them. Okay, guys, slide. Okay, Teddy, slide down. Ahead. We say Yasher Koach on 3. Chad, Shtayim, Shalosh. Yasher Koach to our incredible Alei Korei, our Torah readers, and to our wonderful B'nai Mitzvah who led the Aliyah. Thank you all, Yasher Koach. Just exquisite. Shana Tova. We rise as we lift the Torah. Okay. Get up, lift it down and lift it up. That's fine. Torah, Asher, Samoshe, Lifnei V'nei.
Al Shlosha Devarim.
שלושה דברים, שלושה דברים, העולם עומד. על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים, העולם עומד. על התורה ועל העבודה ועל גמילות חסדים. על התורה ועל העבודה ועל גמילות חסדים. על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים, העולם עומד. על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים, איי 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 איי
We take time for prayer for healing. It might be prayers for ourselves, for our family, for our friends, those in our community. I invite you to call to mind those for whom you pray. You might say their names in the quietness of your heart. I will move my hand across the sanctuary. I invite you, if you wish to say their names aloud, to do so. And if you say it at the same time as someone else, it's okay. Just however you're comfortable. Baruch atah Adonai Rofeh HaCholim. We praise you, Adonai, our God. Pray for our strength, courage, healing, tranquility, and peace for all those who may be ill. We turn to the sounding of the shofar, the ultimate sound of Rosh Hashanah. We announce the new year, and the shofar calls us. As we are told, it calls us, it says, awake you slumberers. Not that we're sleeping, maybe someone is, but to remind us that we are waking up our souls to think about what we did in the past year we want to change, how we can do better in this new year. The shofar is the sound we are commanded to hear, and we are so grateful to Sam Selinger, who lets us hear it quite exquisitely. The blessings are at the top of page 37.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kashanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lishmoa kol shofar. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה. תקיעה שברים תקיעה שברים תקיעה תרועה תקיעה.
We turn to the top of 38 and we pray responsively. We turn to the second of 3 sets of calls of the shofar. We remember the sages for whom goodness was daily bread. As we remember, we affirm the heritage that gives our life its worth. Our God and God of all generations, remember us with favor and grant us your compassionate deliverance. Remember your love for us, the covenant you made with Abraham on Mount Moriah. Remember his boundless love for you, his willingness to offer you all that was his. Show us your compassion then, and in your goodness look with favor upon your people and your loved ones. For you are the one who remembers all that has been forgotten. There is no forgetfulness in your presence. Baruch atah Adonai Zocher Habrit. Blessed is the Lord who remembers the covenant.
תקיעה שברים תרועה תקיעה שברים תקיעה תרועה תקיעה.
The top of page 39. Now we call to mind the great moment when Israel stood at Sinai and heard the voice of the shofar. There our people entered into your covenant to be your witness to the world. From that day to this, we have encountered you again and again on the path of our life.
And
You are present, O God, not on peaks of vision alone. At any moment we may turn and find you. And that shofar sounds heralds yet another day whose promise is our hope. Then shall begin the time of peace of which we dream. That dream is not forgotten. The vision does not fail. It is the meaning of our lives. Come what may, we shall hold fast to it. And even when the hope seems lost, we shall say, the kingdom of heaven could begin today if we would but hearken to God's voice. The great trumpet will sound and summon us to serve under your banner of truth, of purity, and of peace.
On that day, the great shofar shall be sounded.
Baruch atah Adonai shomea kol truat amo Yisrael berachamim. Blessed are you, the merciful God, who hearkens to the sound of the shofar.
Tekiah, Shavarim, Teruah, Tekiah, Tekiah, Shavarim, Tekiah, Tekiah, Teruah, Tekiah Gadol.
Yasher Koach to Sam. Wow. Page 40. Ki lekach tov natati lechem torati al ta'azovu. Behold, a good doctrine has been given you. My Torah, do not forsake it.
It's Chaim hi, lamachazikim ba, it's
That was some Tekiah Gadolah, Sam Salinger. We take a few moments to hear the reflections of our North Shore Congregation Israel President Jeff Echt. We are honored to have on the Bima this morning.
Shana Tova. The first thing that comes to mind this morning is I'm just glad. I'm glad to be here with everyone. In this room, on the lawn. I think one thing we no longer take for granted is just being together. So thank you all for being here. I also want to start with a lesson my parents taught me, to express gratitude and just to say thank you. Thank you to individuals. The list of individuals in our NSCI community that have displayed compassion, kindness, and generosity would simply take too long. That is a testament to our NSCI community. In order to keep the list succinct, I'll categorize my thank yous. To our clergy, whether it is a joyous occasion, a regularly scheduled Shabbat service, or just a horribly bad day, week, or month. Or simply a conversation on a Tuesday in the hallway. Each of you continue to provide the pastoral and spiritual underpinning that provides incredible comfort. On behalf of my fellow congregants, thanks to the best collection of listeners I could imagine. To NSCI staff, the adjectives that come to mind are pride and professionalism. This exceptional collection of dedicated individuals allow our congregants and at times our greater community to enjoy this building, programming, and events that do not simply fill a calendar, but provide entertainment, joy, prayer, and comfort throughout the year. To my fellow congregants, a group of engaged, diverse, thoughtful, and kind individuals and families that create a unique fabric that defines NSCI. Whether you are here in person or participating electronically, thank you. I also want to express appreciation and respect for our existing Board of Trustees, previous boards and leaders and previous presidents that have led this organization for over 100 years. Without the dedication of our clergy, staff, congregants, and leaders past and present, we would not be in a position to continue to grow and expand as a community that is North Shore Congregation Israel. Let me make a simple statement. The state of our congregation is strong. It is strong spiritually, administratively, programmatically, and financially. Spiritually, our clergy, Rabbis Geffen, Green, Daniels, and Cantor Goldstein, continue to find innovative ways to teach and lead us spiritually. Administratively, Todd Brayman and the entire staff continue to provide energy, creativity, and organization that allow NSCI to run so very efficiently. As I have said many times, nothing around here happens by accident. Programmatically, the combination of our clergy team, the administrative team, and Dr. Roberta Goodman, and all those involved with our school have created an environment, sometimes physically and oftentimes virtually, in which participation in all sorts of programming continues to expand. In fact, enrollment in our religious school now exceeds enrollment prior to the pandemic. Financially, the foundation of our financial strength rests on identifiable pillars. We have absolutely no debt. We have significant reserves, and our board is committed to maintaining those reserves. NSCI has built a sizable endowment, and as an organization, we are committed to build upon the endowment as an essential component of NSCI's long-term financial stability. And we benefit from a thoughtful, diligent, and comprehensive budget process. Once again, NSCI is operated on a balanced budget. This solid foundation allows us to look to the future through an optimistic lens. So let's talk about tomorrow, the future. Not 5 years from now or 10 years from now. How about the next 12 months? The success of the Imagine the Possible campaign puts us in a place where we no longer need to imagine. I will go out on a limb and say that this time next year, with the help of Dean Weinberg and dozens of your fellow congregants, we will be able to enjoy a renovated Frank Hall, a renovated Crown Hall, a reconfigured and vastly improved administrative and clergy workspace, and a new vision for our lawn. The Imagine the Possible campaign is another reflection of the generosity of those congregants that have already contributed, and those future contributors that will help us generate sufficient capital to complete a project of the scale and of the quality
that is the fitting for this building and consistent with the quality that our congregants expect and frankly deserve. Through the patient and skillful leadership and planning of Marilyn Perlman, Jody Weinberg, Susan Longo, Rachel Stein, our executive director Todd Brayman, and many other campaign leaders, NSCI is on its way to completing yet another significant capital campaign. For those that have contributed, thank you. For those that will contribute in the future, thank you for your generosity. This is all wonderful and frankly quite a bit humbling, and leads me to a question. How did we get here? Fundamentally, what is the foundation of NSCI's success? Put another way, what could be the true foundational element of NSCI? A theme and element so very essential and all-encompassing that this very notion has fueled and propelled our congregation for over 100 years and will be a constant for another 100. However, one cannot see it, touch it, or feel it, but you know it when you experience it. Where do we find the answer to this question? I would look to a very old book, one that has truly stood the test of time, one that I've referred to in the past as the subject of the world's longest running book club. It meets every Saturday morning all around the globe. It's met for thousands of years. Yes, let us look to the Torah. More specifically, I will look to a figure in the Torah. Let's look to Abraham, the very first Jew. One Saturday morning, we were asked a very simple question. Why did God choose Abraham as the first Jew? What made Abraham so very unique and qualified to be the first Jew? After all, his family business was making idols. They literally made idols. If this Jewish thing takes off, he puts his family out of business. To put Abraham in a modern context, he was a true disruptor, a disruptor of biblical proportions in biblical times. But okay, why Abraham? One word, chesed, kindness. Biblical scholars do not mean kindness of the ordinary variety. Of course, being civil in the Sunset parking lot, helping friends or strangers in need when the occurrence arises, that is kindness. Abraham's brand of kindness was much more than that. Commentators do not describe Abraham's kindness in an episodic manner. No. His kindness was constant and embodies his entire being. A Hasidic scholar describes, Abraham did not merely engage in acts of chesed, but Abraham's whole existence and being were love and compassion. The scholar continues, there are some people whose quality of chesed is dependent on the opportunity to do good for someone. And when there is no such occasion, they have no connection to chesed. But someone whose whole being is chesed is always compassionate and merciful in potential. Even if she is not able to help another person, she still feels the other's heart, living in connection with both their pain and their joy. Modern commentators have a similar perspective and draw a distinction between tzedakah, charitable giving, and chesed, kindness. Rabbi Jonathan Sachs provided the following about chesed. It is tzedakah's other side. Tzedakah is done with material goods, chesed with psychological ones, time and care. Tzedakah is practical support. Chesed is emotional support. Tzedakah is a gift of resources. Chesed, a gift of the person. Even those who lack the means to give tzedakah can give chesed. Tzedakah rights wrongs. Chesed humanizes fate. At the heart of the Judaic vision is the dream of a society based on chesed. Society with a face, a human face, not one dominated by competition for power or wealth. A community based on chesed is a place of grace where everyone feels honored and everyone is at home. Jewishness is not measured by the number of times we walk through these doors. No. Jewishness is not like accumulating frequent flyer miles or Peloton workouts. No. Jewishness is not an objective measure. It is a quality, not a mere quantity. I say quality measured in kindness, dedication to family and community, and a year that saw incredible hardship, struggle, and loss. This year also included immeasurable amounts of kindness, dedication, and community. This was an incredibly Jewish year. NSCI is here every day to do what? Not just to perform acts of kindness, but to be prepared to act and react for this community at any time. And that is what occurred during this past year. Out of innate instinct, our fellow congregants, staff, and clergy immediately helped fellow congregants and members of our community after an unthinkable and horrific flurry of events. Why is it important to prepare, to have no debt, sufficient reserves, a meaningful endowment, and to continue to improve the physical structure through the success of the Imagine the Possible campaign? Why? So we, NSCI, can continue to provide both tzedakah and chesed to our fellow congregants in all shapes and forms on any day of the week for years and decades to come. I proffer that NSCI's entire being, the essence of NSCI, is founded in kindness. That is our NSCI. A place where kindness exudes through our hallways, classrooms, sanctuaries, and through the individuals that comprise NSCI, our fellow congregants, staff, and clergy. In a strange sort of positioning, while it is difficult to imagine all-encompassing chesed, at the same time, we enjoy and experience that privilege of all-encompassing chesed, kindness, right here at our synagogue. So let me end in the same way in which I started, with a sincere thank you. On behalf of your fellow congregants, I thank every congregant that has contributed their time, expertise, or financial resources to put NSCI in a position to flourish and to both receive and express kindness. Even more simply, let me thank each one of you for your kindness. L'Shana Tova, wishing you and your network of family and friends a happy, healthy, and yes, a kind new year. L'Shana Tova.
We turn to page 41 and rise for Aleinu. Go.
Aleinu l'shabeach,
Adom hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי ארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם קרקענו כהם, וגלור עלינו ככל עמונה. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ היום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
Page 42. The poet Hannah Senesh wrote, "There are stars whose light reaches earth when they themselves are no more. There are people whose brilliant memory illumines our lives when they themselves are no longer among us. These lights shining in the darkness of night, they show us the path." Rosh Hashanah is Yom HaZikaron. One of its names is the Day of Remembrance. So we remember. We remember those who died in recent weeks, those for whom we mourn in the period of Shloshim, who died in the last year, those whose yahrzeit fall this week, and those whom we remember just because we are here. They are not sitting next to us. They are not at our table. They are not giving us a hand as we prepare for the holiday, calling with their wisdom, their greeting. We remember. We join together as one unbroken chain of tradition, one family of families, in the words of Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, Yamad yivrach v'yutei v'yamlich malchuteh, v'chayechon u'vyomechon u'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, b'agala v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah v'varach le'olam almei omaya. Yitbarach v'yishabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei d'kudsha b'richu la'ela u'la'ela v'yipol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata damiran v'yama v'imru amen. Yehei shlom araba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom v'ramav Hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. The God who makes peace in the heavens, oseh shalom b'mromav, grant peace and comfort to all of us here on earth. And we say, amen. In a moment, we're going to close with Selah, singing those words, but just first, super big gratitude to Selah, Yashar Koach. Yeah, I think that you can even. Gratitude to all who participated. Gratitude to our awesome Ga'alei Korei, our Torah readers, to all of you who are participated in our service, to our ushers, to our streamers, to our musicians, to all those behind the scenes, in front of the scenes. Please, as we close our service with song, we invite you to do three things after the closing song. One, bring your machzor, your prayer book out and hand it to one of our ushers. That would be super helpful. They don't have to then come collect. Notice in the north parking lot, those really big pods. We need to fill them up. One is for the Ark to bring kosher food. You can bring that straight through the holidays. Great thing to do in the coming days after the holiday. Go shopping for food for people who really, really need it. And the other pod is for cradles to crayons, for new and gently used things for children. All the information is actually in your handout. And of course, let's close our service with song, and let's of course exit with chesed, with kindness toward one another, with patience, with gratitude for the fact that we are here marking this holiday, health and strength. Let's sing.
Oseh shalom
Roma, Uyaseh shalom aleinu. Oseh shalom in Roma, Uyaseh shalom aleinu.
Oseh shalom in Roma, Uyaseh shalom aleinu. Yaseh shalom. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
Tova.
Shana Tova.